I wanted to show you something. This is simply cocoa peat that is mixed around with water and rehydrated, and it's nice and brown, and it is just happy as a clam. It's really good stuff that I've been using for a while, but I wanted to show you a couple of things. This is, a really nice brown. This is really nice black. This is the composted cow manure that I have, and I use this in conjunction with. Whoop, I got one of my hairs in there. Ew, must have been on my shirt. Anyway, this is part of what I mix in for my soil. And there's clumps of weird stuff in here, and it's clumpy by nature, and I can break it apart, no big deal. That's why I have the little garden rake thing down here. Anyway, I mixed this in with my worm castings, and if you remember my worm castings, they are really, really wonderful dark black stuff too. And this bag, I have had this bag. I don't know, this is a 40-pound bag. I'm amazed I was able to get it in the house because I can't really lift all that much. But I had some help. And it's a great supplement for my soil, and it goes well with the worm castings and the vermiculite to keep the soil nice and fluffy, just like this stuff is. This stuff, it's really, good, light, fluffy, earthy stuff. And it's not really dirty, you can see there. So it's actually sterile when you get it out of the compressed, baked, whatever form thing. And it's good stuff. So I wanted to show you that really quick. And I wanted to show you this really quick because I don't think I've really shown this very much. And I add a little bit of this to that, and then I add vermiculite, and we have some wonderful soil. So, all right, gang, so here we are. We're back in where the seedlings are. I planted 24 varieties of plants here, and they're all here. And if you have questions about what I planted specifically, I'll let you know. I planted these on December 1st, and yesterday I discovered that the basil was sprouting. On the 4th. Actually, no, let's see, on the 4th. So in under 5 days, this Italian basil sprouted. Go figure. I love seeing new sprouts. It's a really, really cool thing. It makes me really happy. It tells me that I've got good seed and that I've got good substrate. The rest of these all have different germination times, so I'm not worried about them. They're staying moist, they're staying warm, and that makes me really happy. Another thing, some of y'all may remember that I had another tomato plant here. Well, it didn't make it. I used it as an experiment while I was working on some soil, and it didn't make it, but that's okay. I'm going to be planting it again in the winter sowing that I'm going to be doing outside. This one, however, this one is the golden... It's the golden cherry tomato. I never get it right if it's sunray, sunrise, I don't know, whatever it is. Son of Ray? I'll have to talk to Ray about that. But this one's doing well, and it's under the light, and it's doing well. It's got good soil, and the serrano's got good soil. But you'll notice that my tobacco plant isn't in here, and this is a weird thing. I found critters in my tobacco plant, and one of the things I found was a couple of fungus gnats. Now, I took it outside immediately, and I went through the soil with my magnifying glass. Ooh, look at that, you can see. And I went through every little bit of the soil like this. And I discovered that my soil is okay. I scooted a bunch of it aside, and the couple top inches were fine, which is usually where fungus gnat larvae wind up. And I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay on that, and I can't emphasize enough, though, definitely double check and always make sure that your plants are safe. So, worry avoided, and the serrano, one thing about the serrano I do want to show you. Let me see if I can get this to focus here. Can you see that? There we go. That area, boy, I'm bouncing around. That area has a nice start of a woody stem, and that happened because, at least it happened outside as when I noticed it, and the wind was blowing it around, and it started to develop this woody stem, so that's kind of cool. But the serrano is very strong. You can see it barely moves. The top leaves move, but look at the stem. I mean, the stem, focus. Thank you. The stem doesn't move. So I'm really, really pleased about that. The tomato, it doesn't really move either. So I guess I'm doing something right. And despite the failures in the last couple of plants, you know, and that's the whole point. This is a blog, and this is my misadventures. But despite the failures of the last 2 plants, I am happy that I am actually doing well in my misadventures in gardening. You know, with a couple of plants that are coming along, with the seedlings that are going, and you know, the basil. Gosh, I'm happy about that. You know, this basil plant has been so prolific ever since I've had it in Chicago. And these seeds, I didn't buy these seeds. These are the only seeds I have from plants that I have grown myself. These are the basil seeds from a basil plant that I have been growing for years in Chicago, and it makes me very happy to see that it is a very healthy plant. Pretty cool soil, huh? The thing about it is it is just the best base I have ever had for a soil, and it lasts forever, and you can recycle it in the sense that you can reuse it so long as it doesn't have bugs or disease. You know, and if you have stuff in your soil that prevents that, then even better. But the cocoa peat is reusable. So when I am done with the plant, I will dump it into one of my bins and sort out the soil, make sure there's no plant particles or anything yucky left in there, and then I'll take the rest of the soil and put it back in with my regular soil. And since I add the worm castings and the compost, it is just fine. So it keeps going as a soil medium until it finally physically breaks down itself. So it's kind of cool. I like it. Tips today. The soil being one thing. You saw the worm castings last video. In the closet, you saw the seeds and you saw the plants. About the plants, there were 2 tomato plants up there, and there was a Shirazi tobacco plant up there. The Shirazi tobacco had critters. I had to take it outside because I went with my magnifying glass and I found critters in the soil, and I found a couple of gnats flying around it. Since then, I went with my camera, and I'll show you this a little more close up, and my magnifying glass to take really close macro shots of the soil, and I found that it was okay. I dusted around in the first couple of inches on each of them. I checked my seedling trays, and it's okay. They're going to be okay. But the other tomato plant, I was mixing a batch of soil, and the tomato plant just went through too much of a shock to recover from it, so unfortunately it died. But fortunately for my worms, they got some more food. So it's a good thing in the sense that it keeps my cycle going. Today, I have cables at my feet. What am I going to show you? I was searching because I've only got the 3 lights, and while they're very, very bright, they don't cover a lot of area with an even intensity. So what I can do is I can rearrange them with some dimmer lights and actually have a well-balanced light area in there, and some of it might even spill out into here where I could put a plant here or something like that. But without a socket to put those lights in, what am I going to do? Because I have the socket here that has two sockets. It was the stand top for my lighting stand, and it has 2 sockets. One of them's empty. That one way up there was one that I had, and the one in the back was one that I had. But then this one over here with the LED lamp hanging down from it over the aloe, I made that one. So how did I make it? Well, I had some cables floating around in the sense that I had a dead box fan, and it just was not working, so I cut the cable at the motor, and I took the cable out of it, and that is this one. And I went looking for bulb sockets, and I didn't know exactly if I was going to find one or where, but I went out to our garage and I found a lamp fixture that was ruined in the sense that it had gotten water in it and the metal was rusting and everything like that. But I checked the lighting fixtures and the wiring, and they're all in great health. The lights are this fixture here. This clamp thing is part of the assembly. Don't worry about that. I'm using it for something specific in there. But the socket here is rated at 250 volts, 660 watts. I looked this up online and I talked to my electrician friends, and they confirmed 660 watt light bulb would be fine in here. Not that I ever plan to put anything quite that big in there, because that's kind of ridiculous. You know, I mean, can you imagine an actual 660 watt bulb? I mean, these put out 600 watts equivalent of an incandescent bulb, but they only draw 135 watts. So I can't imagine an actual one of these that took 660 watts. I mean, what is that? That's math that I can't do, but you figure it out for yourself. It's a lot. So I found that the fixtures were, the sockets were fine. And so I checked with some of my electrician friends, and I have done electrical work before, but I checked with some of my electrician friends to make sure I didn't miss anything, and I spliced the wire together. I used a wire nuts on this particular one and spliced them together, wrapped the cables individually, wrapped the wire nuts, wrapped the cable with a little bit of give for the fan cable, and now I've got a hanging fixture. I want to emphasize that if you have not ever done this type of thing before, and if you do not have any experience with electricity, working with electrical, supplies and wiring and stuff, make sure you consult an electrician, please. If you've never done any of this before, or if you think it looks really, really easy, it may be easy, but you want to make sure you run the risk of, you want to make sure you don't run the risk of electrocuting yourself. So you want to make sure that you're very, very careful and you follow specific guidelines to make sure that you don't have a cable that's going to shock you. What I did for the second one, and for the one that's hanging up right there, is I got another cable that I had lying around, and I used a lineman's splice to splice the two cables together. And again, I have a free hanging fixture, and I put the tape down here to add a little bit of rigidity here, a little bit of strength down in this area. And as long as you don't hang it from this part, especially if you have a heavier light like the bulbs I've got, if you're hanging it from this part of the cord, it's going to be okay, which is what I'm doing on that one and on that one. And it is just fine. So I've got 3 new light sockets, and that's a tip for today. And the other tip being, don't electrocute yourself, please. I don't want to have that on my conscience, and I don't want any of you to not be safe. That's that. The worm castings and the soil and washing of that's not exactly a tip, but it's a demonstration of how I do things, which is much better than me rambling on about all my plants. You heard that I had basil that sprouted? It did. I actually have over in that container over there, I have 4 little basil sprouts that popped up within 4 days. 4 days. I planted those on the 1st. They sprouted up on the 4th. And it is just amazing. I was making the soil last night, the batch that you saw out there. And then I came back in today, and there were a couple more sprouts. There were actually 2 that sprouted first, and then now there's 2 more. So that plant is doing great. And it's the plant that I brought from Chicago. And it has given me many, many, many seeds. And I've used them over and over and over, and I've given them to people. I've got just a few seeds left, and I'm just so excited to see that they're doing well. And I can't wait to see what the other plants, even though all have different germination rates, I want to see what they do, and I'm hoping that I get to see some of those here in the next couple of weeks and get to move them into something bigger when the time comes. I'm really ready. I'm really pumped for that. And also, I'm going to be planting another batch of these seed cells that fills up the other half of the tray a little bit later with different plants that I want to grow, and I'm going to do that in January. And then in late January, I'm going to do winter sowing outside, where I take the soda pop bottles and cut them open and put soil in, put a plant in, close it, tape it, and take the lid off and put it out in the snow. I'm going to do that too, and that's going to be another set of plants. I'm going to have so many plants, it's going to be hilarious. But the nice thing is that I have neighbors and I have people in my neighborhood who love seeing me garden, and I'll have plants that I can give to them too. I've given some seeds to some of the neighbors already, and they're loving them. They love the idea of growing some stuff themselves. And I gave some of my aloe plants, some of the baby aloe that were popping off of the side, I gave those to some of those girls too. So I'm getting to teach what I'm doing. I'm getting to help them learn something new. I'm getting to help them learn more about gardening in general, and it just makes me happy. You know, it's a good thing. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm hoping that it all works out for them and for these and for the plants that they grow for this garden, and I'm just excited. So I will see you all next time. Until then, this is Kim. This is a garden. We're out of here. Bye-bye.